Hello, this is still Teacher DM and we're going to talk about the barriers of communication. I have given you a glimpse of what barriers are on the elements of communication. But let us deepen our understanding about the barriers of communication. Barriers again are the factors that affect the flow of communication. We all know of that. But let me give you of communication barriers. First is what they call as emotional barriers. Emotional barriers. Emotional barriers are internal barriers that are inside yourself. State for example, you are having a bad day. You sit in a class or meeting where you find the speaker boring. Bad day. You're having a bad day. That is your own mood. That is an internal barrier, an emotional barrier. When you become bored in a class or in a meeting, that is still an emotion. So it's still also an emotional barrier. But let me just ask you, what is your solution if you are having a bad day? Do you have any idea? Or do you have any solutions for it? Now, if this is happening to you, students, when you are having a bad day, but you have still to communicate with other people, then recognize this kind of emotions and politely ask the other person to give you a moment so you can relax or calm yourself. When we are having a bad day, we become hot-tempered, we become impatient. When we are driven by our emotions, the situation is we tend to hurt other people by our words. We could not even control the words that are coming out from our mouth. So, in order to refrain that kind of situation, remember, students, that you have to recognize these kinds of emotion and politely ask the other person to give you a moment so you can relax or calm yourself. Remember, you just have a bad day, not a bad life. And we always have our own bad days. And how about when you sit in a class and you get bored? In order to solve this, you have to recognize also this kind of attitude. Reset and reflect on how you can be interested in what the speaker is pointing out. Remember, not all speakers are entertaining, but they are informative. You have to ask yourself, why am I in the class? Why am I attending this meeting? Am I here to be entertained or am I here to get informed? If your purpose is to get informed, then you have to expect that there are speakers who are boring when they speak. There are speakers who are not gifted on humor. So you have to adjust yourself to avoid this communication, to avoid this barrier. You have to change the kind of attitude that you have. You have to set your mind that not all speakers are the same with those speakers that you want, that you really, really like. There are speakers, again, who are not gifted on speaking with humor, but they are intellectuals. They are good at their own fields, and you can gain a lot of information about a certain topic. The next barrier is what they call as use of jargons. Jargons are technical words. Jargons refers to the set of specialized vocabulary in a certain field. We do not always talk to people who have the same specialization as we have. And when we do not adjust with people, with commoners, then the words that you are using might affect communication. To avoid communication breakdown, To avoid communication breakdown due to the lack of clarity of your words, you have to adjust your language. You have to use layman's term or simple words. If there is a simpler word for a jargon or a specialized word, then you have to use it, or else you will leave your audiences hanging, especially if you don't have the same education, especially if you are not honed on the same context. So therefore, you have to adjust, you have to be clear on your words, and even the way you organize your thoughts. The next barrier is what they call as lack of confidence. Lack of confidence is still an internal barrier. Say, for example, you are asked to share something about your day or weekend, but you are hesitant because you are shy. How do you solve this barrier? How are we going to overcome this problem? The solution is develop your self-confidence by joining organizations where you can share and develop your interests. Look for opportunities in your school or community that will help you find your strengths and improve your abilities. I can still remember a person who said that a person or a human being is scared of two things. Number one is death, and the second one is public speaking. But to overcome this fear of speaking, in front of a lot of people, or you don't have confidence in facing the crowd, you have to expose yourself on this kind of endeavor. Say, for example, you volunteer to organizations, you participate on church activities where you are given opportunity to stand on stage. With that, you can develop your self-confidence. And also, talking to the mirror and looking at yourself and telling yourself that you can do it would really help you in building your confidence. The next one is what they call as noisy environment. This is the most common barrier in communication. Noisy environment is an external barrier. It's an external barrier. Name all the noise that you could hear right now, right now, or in your house. That is what we call as noisy environment. From your crying sibling to the barking dog, we call it as noisy environment. But how about when you are having a conversation with some friends when a song was played loudly? How would you solve this? So you recognize that noise is a common barrier, just like what I've said. Make some adjustments by asking someone to minimize the volume or by looking for a quiet area where you can resume the conversation. If it's possible, you can look for a quiet place or a study area. But if the situation wouldn't allow you to have a quiet place or a designated area for your study, then you ask your family, you ask your neighbors to adjust the volume of their karaoke, adjust the volume of their gadgets, and also letting them know that you are studying, where you will not be distracted, or else it would really affect your learning. So again, the barriers are emotional barriers, the use of jargon, lack of confidence, and noisy environment.